Yeah. And to put a more positive spin on that, by the way, on the other side of it, like we have a ton of clients, especially from PR and marketing working together, who have been focused on trend analysis, things like that, right? Beyond just the crisis management piece, but let's get ahead of these things. It's never been a greater time to plug into the collective narratives happening around you and understand trends and things important to your business and decipher those into insights. So on the other side, I think people's understanding of the world as it relates to them will go way up because of AI, but discerning what's real and not in those worlds and how it comes after your own brand is going to be a big issue.
Welcome to On Top of PR with Jason Mudd.
Hello and welcome to On Top of PR. I'm your host, Jason Mudd with Axia Public Relations. Today, I'm joined by Chris Hackney. Chris is a seasoned technology executive with more than 25 years of experience in B2B SaaS, specializing in public relations and communications. As Chief Product Officer at Meltwater, he leads the development of innovative media and social intelligence solutions. Drawing from his leadership role at PR-focused companies like Trendkite and Cision, Chris's career reflects a commitment to leveraging technology to enhance PR strategies and outcomes. Today, we're talking about using media intelligence to navigate PR, crisis, and economic uncertainty. This is a very timely topic, Chris. Welcome to On Top of PR.
Well, thank you for that intro, Jason. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here too, and really good to get connected with you. Obviously, Meltwater is a prominent brand in the industry, and we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to talk about, some of your organization's ideas and recommendations in the marketplace. So, media intelligence is something that we've been talking about as a profession for decades. Obviously, it's a critical part of PR. Not the only part of PR, but certainly very critical. So kind of at a high level, talk about with us for a minute about media intelligence. What are some of the trends and best practices that you're seeing out there?
Yeah, it's a real good starter question for this, just to ground everyone. From our perspective, the trend is it's complicated. There's a lot going on in this space. It used to be a much more straightforward exercise to do media intelligence. But today, media intelligence is blending with social. The landscape is extremely fragmented, and the news cycles are running faster and harder than they ever had before. Much less the idea of, am I dealing with a real person, a real journalist, a real influencer, or is this a bot or other device generating news that I have to deal with? So, for brands and companies, it's never been more complicated. Luckily, we're here and others are here to bring solutions, but the trend is definitely complicated in every respect.
Yeah, it feels like I get to talk to industry conferences and all the time. And the one thing I'm always telling them is that, PR is still fundamentally the same. Just the tools, responsibilities, and demands have made it more intense. So, with great power comes great responsibility. And in the modern era of the profession, we are always finding and getting access to more and more powerful tools that in theory make our job easier, but also make our job more risky, because one click of the wrong button and suddenly, you've sent out a mass email to the entire wrong audience, or maybe a rough draft or something like that. And I don't suspect that's going to change as we get more and more technology and we start adopting more and more AI tools.
Yeah, I would agree. And the nature of the job hasn't changed at all, right?
Right.
Professionals need to understand the narratives around us. We need to understand who's driving those. And we need to understand the audiences that are impacted by those or affected. But the fragmentation of this, the speed of it is just lightning quick compared to what it used to be. And so if I'm like an airline and I have a customer service issue that turns into a social story, that turns into a news story, that could all happen within 12 hours. And I have to prepare it, even if that's at Saturday night, on my Saturday night and I'm already home, react to that.
Yeah, and I would say 12 hours might even be a little too generous, right? I mean, it can move very quickly. So exactly. I think you're exactly right. So, well, good. The two kind of takeaways we wanted to talk about today was navigating quickly in a developing crisis and the use of AI to understand narratives. So let's jump right in and talk a little bit about navigating quickly in a developing crisis. Chris, what are some of your thoughts and recommendations there?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing we have obviously is you need to understand what's going on first, and being alerted quickly when things are developing. And so with any developing crisis, it's understanding where the anomalies, the spikes are, where they're coming from, who's driving them, is very, very important. It's where our tools and others come in.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say past that, and a lot of your PR professionals who listen to this, I'm sure, understand the basic metrics and things you'd be looking at. I think the number one issue we get into with a lot of our clients, though, is you get to a point of decision making, right? Is this something, the crisis of the day, and is it something we need to act on? Or is it something we let pass and continue to monitor? And I think most of them are very good at the core metrics. If this is hitting certain thresholds, we go or no go. But I think the thing they mostly miss, which is the biggest thing that really either hurts a client or has them miss an opportunity, is they don't understand their brand themselves, and whether the discussion that's going on is something that is core to their brand reputation or not, right? Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, and we've seen this with certain brands like the Budweiser instance and others, right? If it's something that is attacking the core of what your brand is supposed to stand for, it is absolutely something that can do brand reputation harm immediately. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to reputation, there's the old quote of to thine own self be true, right? Know yourself before you act. So if you're Patagonia, I'll go to the other side of the aisle on this. If you're Patagonia and you've got something that is showcasing that Patagonia has an issue on an ecological issue, that is absolutely to the core of who you are as a brand, and you have to react to it. So I think we have very good people who are disciplined on the metrics and the thresholds of those, but they have to be absolutely tied in as PR professionals into the brand and what it stands for, and be ready to understand that as a criteria for how they act.
Got you. Yeah. So when we're talking about navigating quickly in a developing crisis, what are some of your thoughts, Chris, kind of on like, how do you react? What might be too quick? What's not quick enough? And what tools do you sense that our audience needs at their disposal to have the intelligence that they need in a timely manner, but also deep enough intelligence that they can make informed decisions?
Yeah, what we generally advise on our side is to have a playbook, right? What are the thresholds and criteria by which things get escalated at your company? What are the things that start to bring in? It's not just a PR issue, it's a marketing issue, it's a senior executive issue. What teams are you bringing in at each of those levels? If you don't have a playbook ready, it's just a recipe for disaster. And we see this in other areas too. Cybersecurity is a great area where it moves lightning fast and you need to have these same playbooks. But on the PR side, you have to be prepared. And obviously, a lot of this starts with the right tools, right? You can't be blind as you go in. That's where a tool like Meltwater and others can come in. You also need to understand in these developing crises who is driving the conversation and who is reacting to it. So are these key players that are considered industry experts or consumer influencers, or is this just another pot shot being taken at your brand? And as those narratives develop from those sources, are they being picked up by what we call amplifiers? Are there typical people who are social nodes or editorial nodes that usually turn a small story into a big one and give it legs over a sustained period of time? And so what we'll start to look at is, are you looking at those graphs? Are you seeing those amplification effects? And then do you have a playbook ready for when it hits certain inflection points? If you can monitor at that level and have the playbook ready on your side to execute, you can be in generally good shape. Every situation is different. Some of them need to go straight to an executive level and core decisions. Some can fly by on a random Wednesday. But at least you have the ground game in place to be effective in how you manage it.
So, Chris, what are some of the ingredients that you're recommending in this playbook?
So the ingredients are basically, first, you start with your metrics, right? What are our thresholds by which we cross the chasm into an issue that needs to be elevated? Typically, you're looking at brand reputation areas that are most important to that brand, and key inflection points on reach and engagement around those. You're also looking at key parts of that social graph that you consider influencers in your space or spaces for your audience if you're more of a consumer brand. But the other side of that very clearly is a guidebook on who to bring in when. and what decision criteria happen to go from, is this a social response, quick social response? Is this a full PR response? Is this all the way up to an executive response through our teams? So you have to know at the gates at each of those tiers that you're ready, and be ready to pull those triggers. And like you said on the United Airlines one, fine, 12 hours might be too long. It could be within an hour, right? Is this something we're waking up the CEO for?
Right.
It's starting to go viral across many channels, and we need to react.
Yeah. So what we'll do for our audience is we'll put a link in the episode notes to our 10 steps to crisis planning and preparation. I think that'll be helpful and related to this topic. So our audience can go there and grab a copy of that. Let's talk about kind of the right tools or the tech stack that you would recommend for navigating quickly in a developing crisis.
Yeah, and I'll speak broadly on that. I mean, obviously, as you look at these crises, you have to think of tools that hit on all these layers. The first layer, obviously, is the listening monitoring one. Are you understanding and getting detail on the conversations as they happen? And I think there's a really important point. And this is a conversation we're having with a lot of our PR customers right now. There tends to be an onus on the editorial side still. We live in a social world, but there's still an onus on editorial sources. We think that's really, really important, but you're missing most of the story if you're not tying social listening in at the same time as editorial listening. And what we're actually seeing a lot of right now is that there is cross discussion of conversations in both directions at a rate you've never seen before. All right. So it's more likely nowadays that a conversation is starting in social. Editorial groups are monitoring social, picking up on those for their stories, and then driving an editorial discussion on the back end of it. So if you're not seeing the social side, you're going to miss the first cycles of that news story because you didn't even know it was a news story yet. So what we're really pushing hard is listening monitoring. Make sure you have something that is effective at both ends of that spectrum, understands how both ends play together and how things amplify through those cycles. Once you get the listening monitoring piece, you need to understand who the players are. You need to understand both on a journalism side, from a media relations tech stack standpoint, who are these journalists? What do they cover? What are the key questions? Are they friends or foes? Typically, do they put a target on you or not? And know where those targets exist. And then the same on the social influencer side. It's not enough to just know who the journalists are. You really need to understand who the influencers are that are amplifying these in these discussions in social channels. So you need to understand the narrative, the people, and the last one I'll come back to again is the audience. Are these people who are influential, but are they actually influential with the people that are going to impact your business, right? If it's an influencer with, teenagers, and your core audience for your product is moms, maybe that's not a big deal that in a teenager influencer world, you're getting hit in a few directions. But if your core audience is moms and it's going through the mom blogosphere, that's got to be an issue for you. So you have to understand, is this influential narratives and people in the areas that matter to you and in the core of what your business is? If you have all three of those elements, then what you need is a workflow in these systems that connects them all, right? So can I see the progression of narratives through people into audiences, and then what the impact of that is? So we usually say, hey, systems like ours are really great at that, to bring all three of those together and then give you the same type of platform that you need to start to take action. Now that I'm smart, now that I've got intelligence, what are the actions I need to start taking? Do I need to put out releases? Do I need to reach out to journalists? Do I need to do an influencer campaign? How do I get my story out through my channels and the influence I might have as a brand?
And Chris, any thoughts on the timing? Is there a scenario where it's too soon to respond, or you've waited too long? Is there any best practices that you or your organization recommend?
So we usually say more is better, right? Too often the greatest damage is when companies leave something out there for too long, and they're always nervous to get into a discussion prematurely. What we've generally told them as a best practice is, especially given the pace of social and especially the pace of with AI, fake news, and other things going on, is to understand what's getting traction and just jump in, not defensively, but to tell your side of the story, right? And just act like a fact checker on all these things. It's not about putting the beautiful PR touch on it, but it's about having a human voice in this conversation with the rest of the human voices going on and acknowledging it. Hey, we know this is a conversation that's happening. We would like to at least spell out the facts as we have them and insert that into the conversation and continue to have a voice as it progresses. Too many brands are relying on, 8 layers of approvals, a 24-hour cycle before they even get into the discussion. And by then the damage is already there. And the key facts, as people understand them, have already metastasized, right? People already believe the story, and it's hard to dislodge them from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I think part of the challenge is that, you said acknowledge it and have a conversation about it. The sentiment I feel like is in the marketplace is that, and you said, don't be defensive. But I think just even attempting to have a conversation, there's almost this perception that you're just being defensive, right? And it's so hard to do both emotionally and to do it with emotional intelligence, and do it in a meaningful conversational way, where people are just quick to say, oh, you're just being defensive, or, of course that's what you're going to say, right?
Exactly. And again, I think a lot of the defensive or non-defensive comes down to tone. Right. Hey, what's the tone we're taking? If you're going in and you're saying, hey, we appreciate people's concerns in this regard. If I use the Patagonia example again, right? Hey, at Patagonia, our philosophy has always been X, and we appreciate if anyone feels like we're not living up to that. Here's what we know about this situation and our stance on it. That's fine. Right. That if you go in and you start attacking the story itself, or you attack the people driving it, you're going to lose them, and they're going to start to feel like it's a defensive stance. And so I think that tone and how you approach it is probably the most important part.
This episode is brought to you by Audible. Enjoy 30 days free of Audible Premium Plus by going to ontopofpr.com/audible.
You're listening to On Top of PR with your host, Jason Mudd. Jason is a trusted advisor to some of America's most admired and fastest growing brands. He is the managing partner at Axia Public Relations, a PR agency that guides news, social, and web strategies for national companies. And now, back to the show.
Chris, I want to just take a step back. You mentioned earlier social listening and monitoring, news listening and monitoring. For our audience sake, how do you define the difference between listening and monitoring?
So it's a good question. So listening to us is more of the reactive element, right? Hey, let's just make sure we gather all the things that are coming in at any given time. It's a little more of a raw form, right? I want to make sure I understand everything that's happening in X, Meta, environments, TikTok, on social. I want to understand what the Wall Street Journal and other publications might be saying in editorial. It's more of that raw form. Monitoring is more of the idea of, hey, I'm starting to filter that, right? What I really want to understand is these elements that are important to my brands in that huge listening environment. And I want to start to set up things like alerts and other things around spikes in activity or anomalous activity. So think of it more as I'm constantly tracking what's happening and then creating action paths off of the spikes and other activity I might see that I want to go in.
So would it be safe to kind of think of listening as more micro and monitoring as more macro?
Yeah, I would say from a how we act, yes, perspective. But the listening, it starts macro in the sense that it's trying to catch everything all at once.
Yeah. And then would that also be listening is kind of like having raw data, and monitoring is more like having insight from that data?
Exactly. Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. And then, as you were just talking earlier about those same things, right? The social listening, the news listening, the social monitoring, the news monitoring. Is that a capability integrated into the core offering of your platform?
Yeah, it's the thing we take particular pride in here in Meltwater, is that we're excellent on both sides, and it's not easy to be excellent on both sides. With editorial content, you're pulling from tens to hundreds of thousands of sources in real time across the world. That's a unique skill that we're really, really good at. On the other side of it, you're pulling from maybe 20 to 30 global social channels, but you have to have strong relationships. You have to be tied into their APIs. Have to have a working knowledge of how to discern the most detail out of those existing APIs. So it's not a lot of fragmentation. But there's a huge amount of volume and relationship building you need to be a trusted partner of theirs and have that access that we have.
my perception of your organization is that it's well known for reporting, and even maybe more specifically, visually reporting. Is that still one of your key differentiators?
Yeah, it's a very, very big one for us. Obviously, if you can't discern insight quickly, it's kind of hard to gather much value from that insight. And so we've taken a lot of pride in how we visualize those insights, bring them forward, and also make it easy to digest for your broader organization. The hardest thing for you as a PR professional is to have the rest of your organization and your cross-functional partners really understand why you're trying to do something and to what end. So that visualization is extremely important. And for us, this has been an area where our AI advancements have been huge. The ability to do more visualizations on the fly, chart, graph, and put it in your voice in a much quicker fashion has been hugely helpful for our clients this last year.
Well, perfect. That's a great segue into our second takeaway, which is the use of AI to understand narratives. So feel free to take the lead on, do you want to walk through kind of the advancements you've made at your organization with this offering, or do you want to talk through some of the challenges and dynamics that we face with the use of AI to understand narratives?
Yeah, I can talk about it in the more general sense first, and then use that as a setup to where we are.
Okay.
The general perspective on this is a little bit of what I mentioned up front. You've got this very quick news cycle, fragmentation, hard understanding of who's driving it, whether that's real people or bot armies and other things like that. That challenge is perfect for AI to come into because what you have is a wealth of data that needs to be analyzed extremely quickly. And this is where we say, hey, there's nothing been invented in the world's history that can do that quicker and better than generative AI right now. And so as news cycles speed up and other things are happening in the universe, it gives us the tools to go and be effective even in that new world order. So that's why we're really excited about AI. Is we've got all the data in the world. How do you structure it? How do you bring it forward? How do you get that one insight that's really, really critical at that moment, and then elevate that through the right channels? So from our perspective, just to bring it down a level from Meltwater perspective, why that's really important for us is historically, of all the things I've been talking about, there's a lot of hardship in getting those things set up properly, right? If I'm a brand, I'll keep going back to Patagonia, and I want to monitor and listen to everything going on and filter, that's a lot of work through Boolean searches and keyword searches that I had to do to set up the exact right thing to find the conversations about us. AI can now do that for you. You don't need professional grade people to set that up, iterations and going through iteration after iteration to get it right, to eliminate the noise. We've got what's called AI Search Assistant built into our systems that absolutely does that Boolean on your behalf, treats you as a reviewer of it, and lets you do that in minutes, what used to take weeks to get right. The same thing with enrichments, right? We look at things like sentiment analysis. This has been a plague upon this entire industry since it was started. Is the conversation positive, negative, neutral? How does sarcasm play into this, especially as you get into things like social? The learning cycles of AI are making us 100 times better at enrichments like that, so that there's a real power to knowing the sentiment of millions of conversations in real time and be able to act on them. And so as we go through these layers of who we are and what we're supposed to deliver as value, you're just layering in AI at every step to make it extremely powerful. And then last thing on this is that right now we have a cavalcade of AI assistants, what I call AI assistants in the system, helping you on a conversational level, just like ChatGPT, build these things out. But we're very close to the point of moving to full AI agents where you as a human are reviewing their work, but they're going off and doing the work for you in multi-step tasks to evaluate these things and then bring you back what you think needs to be acted upon.
Yeah, that's very exciting and how do you say, scary at the same time?
It is. But you know what I really have a deep conversation with a lot of our clients on is I have never met a client who's ever said, you know what, I've got all the resources I need around me. Like I've staffed my team. Usually I'm a team of one and I wear 17 hats, right? And so what we usually have a conversation on is like, don't think of AI as here to take your job, right? That's where people go first, right? It's the first scary thing that hits them. It's more of think about this as you've always said, if I could do so much better if I only had these resources around me.
Yep.
Well, now you're getting those through digital teammates, right?
Right.
Teammates.
Yeah.
So think of it as 10xing who you are, and honestly, focusing on the strategic, creative elements you always wanted to in your role versus having to do spreadsheets and pour through data that always took your time before.
Yeah, exactly. So, Chris, I'll put you on the spot. What's new and what's next, do you think, for the profession?
For the profession, I think the thing that's most pressing is really figuring out what's real and what's not when it's coming at you. I think we're about to, with AI, the negative side for me of AI is we're going to enter a world where you can't trust your eyes and you can't trust your ears. And that's going to be really hard when we talk about all the things we just talked about on crisis management, to discern what's a real news story, what's really something that's your executive doing something versus someone creating a fake video of an executive at your company or a representative of your company doing something. And if someone deploys that nefariously, they're going to set up content tracks that then have bot tracks amplifying it quicker than you can respond. And so if I was ever a brand, my fear right now is that you could do everything right. And if someone puts a bullseye on you, you're going to still have some issues helping people discern that that's not real, and with a response in instantaneous time to refute it.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a much bigger deal than I wouldn't say than we realize, but than we've ever had to deal with before. And there's already deep fakes and videos being created that, just aren't real. And it's only going to get, more realistic and more concerning. And the more prominent the individuals are, the more likely they are to be targeted. And at the same time, we can't, stop being active in our public communication and our public appearances, whether it's through video like this or creating reels or speaking at conferences. But all of that public exposure opens you up to having your persona, intimidated and your image replicated. And so it's an interesting time to be in this business for sure.
Yeah. And to put a more positive spin on that, by the way, on the other side of it, like we have a ton of clients, especially from PR and marketing working together, who have been focused on trend analysis, things like that, right? Beyond just the crisis management piece, but let's get ahead of these things. It's never been a greater time to plug into the collective narratives happening around you and understand trends and things important to your business and decipher those into insights. So on the other side, I think people's understanding of the world as it relates to them will go way up because of AI, but discerning what's real and not in those worlds and how it comes after your own brand is going to be a big issue.
Yeah, that's some good thoughts there, Chris. You triggered me to point out that, the advice I would give to our audience is to spend some time monitoring what's happening in the marketplace, right? What other brands are going through as far as crisis and challenges. And then they should role play, prepare, test, and tweak so that when something like that happens at their organization, not if, but when, or something similar happens, they've done enough reps and role playing and practicing as a team that they're ready and equipped to, with scripts, with steps, with a phone tree or a contact sheet or whatever it might be, to go through those simulations and, be a better and more prepared organization when a real crisis happens.
Yeah, and that's why I love that exactly what you said. That's why I love the parallel with cybersecurity, because that's exactly what you do in cybersecurity, right? It's called a red table exercise. We are going to pretend this is real. We're going to run a scenario. We're going to do it multiple times so that it's muscle memory by the time something real happens. And I do think PR teams and others are going to have to start to do that based on the speed of the news cycle and all the things we've talked about.
100%. Chris, what is new and next with Meltwater?
Yeah, it's a really exciting time to be here and to be one of our clients. We actually have our big customer conference coming up next month. We're going to be bringing to market a few big advancements. One is on the listening monitoring side. We've got a new world-class product integration that's coming forward that will bring the best of all those worlds I was talking about together with powerful insights and analytics. But the other is we have for the last 18 months been building out incredible AI features. We are now debuting a host of AI platforms and agents powering those, both in our platforms. And at last year's conference, we announced our partnership with Microsoft and our integration with Copilot and Teams. We are now bringing that fully to market so that all our insights move into your Teams and Microsoft Office environments so that you can get Meltwater without ever logging in. So we're really excited to bring that forward. Microsoft has been an incredible partner of ours, and we're looking forward to bringing that to the rest of our client base.
Nice. That sounds great. Chris, if somebody's interested in getting more familiar with Meltwater and exploring these capabilities we discussed, how do they best do that?
So obviously, easiest way to go there is our website, meltwater.com. You'll see our full product suites and details. Through that, anyone can easily request a demo or more information. I will tell you, our teams are by the standby and very happy to talk to you if there's an interest in furthering that conversation.
Perfect. And Chris, as we're wrapping up, if somebody in our audience is interested in connecting with you or have follow-up questions about what we talked about today, what's their best way to reach you?
Honestly, the best way is LinkedIn. Just hit me up on there. I am very responsive, fairly active on posting as well. But it's obviously the easiest to get in touch with me. Or obviously, you can connect with us directly through normal email channels with Meltwater.
Perfect. All right. Well, Chris, I appreciate you joining us today for another episode of On Top of PR. This was a good conversation. I appreciate you sharing your insights and kind of allowing us to look towards not only current challenges, but also towards future challenges and how to better prepare our organizations, whether that's our employers or our clients, for these types of evolving technologies and new opportunities as well as new challenges.
No, it was a real pleasure, Jason. Thank you so much for the invite and the time. And yeah, like I said, it's an exciting time to be in the space. I think those who really understand where it's headed and get ahead of it are going to be incredible at the work they do. But appreciate the time to talk about that. Yeah,
I totally agree with you, Chris. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. So with that, this has been another episode of On Top of PR. And if you have enjoyed this episode or you know someone who would benefit from it, please take a moment to share it with them and encourage them to consume the same content that you just were part of. If you have any questions for Chris or myself, feel free to reach out to us on social media. And we just appreciate the opportunity and you allowing us to help you stay on top of PR. Be well.
This has been On Top of PR with Jason Mudd, presented by ReviewMaxer. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode and check out past shows at ontopofpr.com.